are a few things that you look around that don't have the hand of Congressman Blumenauer on it. The congressman has been involved in and a leader in the community since the 70s, first starting within local government and then eventually making his way to Congress. He has been nothing more or less than a public interest champion, pushing for not just livability and sustainability and environmental protection, but also consumer protection and looking out for the public interest, not just special interests, and has been a forceful, full-throated supporter of public transportation. When Wall Street reform was happening, and now when it's now under attack, he's been out there making sure that that gets defended. And now more recently, and if there's one thing, my observation, if there's one thing that Congressman Blumenauer hates more, it's just waste. And everything is about sustainability. And so it doesn't surprise me that he has also been a long-time proponent of ending wasteful subsidies and spending wherever it is. And then even more so as we're now starting to get into the reauthorization of the Farm Bill next year, has come out and is organizing a bipartisan push in Congress to end some of the most wasteful agricultural subsidies, particularly those that make junk food cheap and help to fuel the childhood obesity epidemic. So it's really awesome that we have an opportunity to have him come and describe the work that he's doing. And so without further ado, Congressman.
Thank you all for being here. Now, I don't have to tell you that things have been a little contentious in the nation's capital. I mean, there are literally two competing worldviews. On one hand, there are the folks that are absolutely convinced that we're about to be Greece. We are just going over the edge because the federal government has spent too much. It's borrowed too much. It's been interfering with people's lives. That we have this president that wasn't born in the United States who's trying to take over health care. No, well, that's not fair. Only a third of them think Look it up. It's true. Although, to be fair, when you look at those surveys, you find that it may not be quite what it appears, because 15% of them aren't sure that Hawaii is a state. So, we can interpret the numbers, okay? And a number of these people are very sincere, very passionate. They have some information that Glenn Beck gave them that convinced them. This is a very solid block in their worldview. Now, there are, to be sure, a few people who have a different view, that they think that the problem with the economy, for instance, was not that the federal government was regulating too much, but there wasn't anybody providing adult supervision for these cowboys that were driving off the edge, treating the markets like casinos with no sense of responsibility and no consequences for literally betting the farm. That it's not a problem that the United States has invested too much, but it hasn't invested enough in rebuilding and renewing, dealing with infrastructure that's falling apart, investing in energy and transportation for the future. It's fascinating. They're just, the problem with healthcare, we really should have more of a system so we're not paying twice as much as the rest of the world and still die sooner, get sick more often, and take longer to get well. Those are pretty diametrically opposed visions. And as I say, people sincerely hold both perspectives. You're part of something that is, I find very exciting, because it's part of this Save the World vision that actually has a very broad appeal. Because one of the things that the libertarians and the extreme right wing and the lefty move-on socialists kind of agree is that we've got a system of investing in agriculture that itself is not sustainable. That we are spending billions of dollars and they aren't going to family farms farmers and ranchers. Most of these subsidies go to agribusiness in a handful of states to grow crops, frankly, that the world more or less has enough of. You know, we're subsidizing people to burn food for fuel, right? With corn-based ethanol. What's happening in terms of the elaborate subsidies for sugar? I could just go on. I mean, I understand you're taking a page out of my friend Michael Pollan's book about why that package of Twinkies that he has after 2 years on his shelf, and he says, you know, can still squeeze. It's just as, I won't say fresh, but it's as reliable as the day he bought it. And it's cheaper than a handful of vegetables. The subsidies run to these industrial size production of, they're not really food, that's kind of a commodity. I mean, you can't eat that corn, right? I mean, you've seen the king corn. You know, it's an Oregonian helped co-produce it. Thank you very much. But it gives us a situation where we're spending too much on the wrong people to do the wrong thing. It is making a real problem in terms of the environment on so many different levels. And it's something that you can persuade people. If you can help them get some information, you can help bring people together. We can have liberals, conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, red state, blue state, kind of agree, maybe we ought to, you know, reduce this waste. Maybe we ought to take some of the money that's left and invest it in strengthening family farms and ranches. And maybe help people grow food. Let's not pay them to grow fruits and vegetables, but let's invest in marketing and research. Let's have some money in that farm bill to make sure that communities can have permanent farmers markets where there can be direct access to the consumer, connecting with the men and women who produce it, who create the cheese, you know, the fruits and vegetables. You know, let's hear the, you know, the Portlandia. Hear the story of the chicken. I get in trouble with the vegans. But as a practical matter, I do a lot of work with Humane USA, and their goals speak to the humane protection and treatment of farm animals. I mean, there's a lot of common ground here that will make a big difference. We can, with your help, get people to understand that we can reduce these outrageous subsidies to the wealthiest of farmers who don't need them, and it guides them to make stupid decisions as far as the planet is concerned for growing. We can invest more in research and development in farmers markets. We can pay farmers and ranchers to protect water quality and water quantity, so that we're not paying through sewer systems. And in fact, we're not having a river that's already polluted before it gets to us with animal waste, with pesticides, with fertilizers. We can take a little bit of this public subsidy and help farmers and ranchers who, many of them, I mean, it's exciting to me when you talk to them. I was out earlier this week with some terrific farmers down the valley. I mean, these people are stewards of the land. And with a little bit of help, a little bit of encouragement, maybe some money, they could make a difference in terms of the environment and land protection. And we'd all be better off. There is a classic win-win-win situation here. We can make sure that the men and women in agriculture who need the help can get it. In Oregon, it's about 87% of the farmers and ranchers get nothing. Oregon gets less agricultural support from the federal government than North Dakota, even though we produce more agricultural product, but they get 6 times as much because they're involved with this industrial farming, like soybeans and corn. We've got a chance to change that equation, to help the farmers and ranchers who need it, to protect the land, to make it cheaper to have healthy food. And it's touching in an area that, in terms of just how people think about nutrition. We ought to be able to weave provisions in this legislation that make it less expensive to provide healthy food to our kids. Sadly, some of the stuff that's supersizing them is provided at reduced or no cost from the federal government, because this is what we subsidize, right? And so we just kind of supersize the kids and make it harder for them to get healthy fruits and vegetables, for instance. Well, a little bit of this money to help institutional purchases for schools, and maybe having more programs like we've got here at Abernathy School in Sunnyside, where kids are learning how to grow food, how to cook food. It's part of their science, math. They just blow you away when you spend time with them, and they talk to you about the history of asparagus, how we make it white, and here's the pesto that we made for our pizza. And, it's really exciting to help young people rediscover food. That the vegetables don't have to come in little plastic packets on a burger. Anyway, I'd rather not too long. And I know that you're the last people in the world I need to tell them. You understand it. You're investing your time in something that is extraordinarily important. I guess I just wanted to say thank you. I wanted to say that I see this movement building in exciting ways, and it's building bridges about sustainability generally. It's building bridges about the sense of community. It's about how to be fiscally responsible in a way that's not destructive to the next generation. I mean, I've got colleagues who've decided they're going to solve the long-term budget problems of the United States by giving you a coupon in your old age and hope that you can find a health insurance program. Thank you very much. And by then, that coupon will be worth about $1.98. No, we can do this better. And this is an important way to start. So I want to thank you. It's part of a real momentum-building effort that is speaking not just to nutrition and agriculture and land use, but I think it's part of a different way of looking at community and tying things together.